Hi, welcome back to yet another episode of Festive Tech Calendar 2022. My topic today is Ops and DevOps. And before I start demonstrating a series of automations as a part of Ops and DevOps, I would like to take a moment to thank Gregor and Richard for giving me an opportunity in the Festive Tech Calendar community 2022 to present my work, my automations, which I've been doing for over a year now. So huge shout out to Gregor and Richard for the opportunity. As I said before I start, a little bit of introduction about me. So my name is Arindam Mitra, and I am an Azure Solutions and a DevOps architect. I'm also a technical blogger and a speaker, focused mostly on cloud adoption, architecture, build, run, and automation. Um, all the details about myself can be found in my GitHub overview page. Feel free to browse. So you have the links for my blog, my LinkedIn, Twitter, Sessionize, GitHub, Facebook. So all are present here. Feel free to connect with me. I also make a point that I keep a stats for myself that how many blogs I published, what are the series which I'm running, how many speaker sessions I have attended over the communities, how many communities I have supported by my blogs, my speaker sessions, pull requests to Microsoft GitHub, issues raised with Microsoft, contribution to the Microsoft issues, and of course, giving product feedback to Microsoft as and when required, whenever I face any challenges in my project and everything. So a detail can be found out here. Feel free to browse in your own time, and you will see all the details out here. As I said that this is my blog site. So this my blog is on dev.to, and all my publications can be found here. The series which I am going to talk today is called Ops and DevOps. So there are like six automations out here, and this will grow over the period because this is something like I feel that when I say ops and DevOps, I always feel that DevOps is not always about build and run. It is also about that how we can utilize the DevOps in a day-to-day operations. And this is where the whole series of mine is focused on. So far I have only published six, but I'm pretty sure that this count will go up to 20, 25 or more than that because there are so many operational activity which we do as a part of cloud engineer or maybe a DevOps engineer or maybe a cloud architect. And I tried to put together all this in the part of my series Ops and DevOps. So I have now 6 year, and keeping in mind that I only have 60 minutes to record my sessions and give you a walkthrough of what I'm doing as a part of Ops and DevOps. I'll try to run my automations as much as possible. But in case if I'm not able to show you in this particular demo, feel free to browse my blogs, and I'm pretty sure that you can do it yourself as well. I am also like in my sessionize. If you can see that in my sessionize, I have mentioned everything what I write and what I publish every day. So you can also find those links in my sessionize, and so feel free to browse here. And finally, I'm also in LinkedIn, as you can see. So I am, as I mentioned, I am an architect, blogger, speaker. I also love traveling a lot, and this is one of my passions apart from Azure. So feel free to connect with me. Okay, cool. So the first thing which I'm going to do is like I will follow this series so that it's easy for you guys to follow what I'm try to demonstrate. So here you see that and as a part of my Ops and DevOps series, I have the first article which is called the Create Service Principle and Store the Secret in Keyboard. Then I have another one which is resetting the service principal and then storing the new secret in the keyword using Azure DevOps. Then again creating groups, then rotating the storage account keys, the primary and the secondary key. How you can do it. This is also like part of the security best practices which we follow to rotate the storage account, primary and the secondary key. And then you can also create service connections using DevOps CLI if you want to create. and then how to enable SFTP, how to create the users, how to map it to the container, how to generate the password, store it in the keyword, the connection strings, and everything. You can do it. So these are the part of the demonstration which I would like to run. So the first one, let's take it randomly. So, and, not to be like, going in an order or something. Let's take it randomly. So the first thing which I'm going to do here is, I'm going to show you the first demo, which is the rotate uh, uh, storage account primary key and the secondary key. And then this is a really interesting one because this we use a lot in our own organizations, as and when required. So as you see that, if you open any of my blogs, you can see the whole series, and you can jump from one topic to another. You don't have to remember the link, you just have to maybe point out to one link, and then, from here you can jump to other topics. So I'm not going to walk you through because, as I said, that the time is really the essence out here. So feel free to have a read. But what primary we are doing out here, that I will mention. Needless to say that, this demonstration, I presented also in one of the other forums called Journey to the Cloud, and that is why you can see the link out here. Typically, when I'm running the pipeline, you will see this graphical user interface, and as soon as I'm going to run, I'm going to explain you. The objective of the automation, again, it is not only about just rotating the storage account primary and the secondary key. It is also about, the validations in place, that first, I will check whether the resource group is available or not. If not, it will fail. Again, storage account. I have to validate, okay, the storage account name, if anybody is providing, is this is this available, or it's just like, so everything, so now we are storing the storage account keys in the keyword. So again, I have to validate whether the keyword is available or not. So yes, the primary objective is to rotate the primary or the secondary storage account keys, depending upon the user choice. But this is also like, you have to keep in mind that, you have to also validate the parameters which are also linked to this demo, or this use case, I would say. Okay. So without wasting any time, let's jump into the pipeline. So the code can be found in, like, there are individual repositories. So if you see, like, if you search for storage, then you see that, you get this rotate storage account keys. But what I have done is just so that, anybody who wants to look into all the codes of Ops-In-DevOps, I have also created a one single repository under which I have put together all the codes, which is a part of Ops-In-DevOps. So here you see that if you go under this one, you will find the code and everything. So this is the code. Again, feel free to see it on your own time. Here you see that I have like stages. The first stage is, of course, it is validating my resource group, storage account, and keyword. And depending upon whether this particular stage is successful, only then, my next stage would be would start. If my first stage fails, my second stage gets skipped, because I have put a condition called succeeded here. So it has to be that the first stage gets successful, then only the second stage will kick in. And in the second stage, then depending upon whether you are selecting primary or you are selecting secondary, depending upon what you want to rotate, depending upon that particular stage is going to kick in. Okay, so let's see the live demo. So I'm now into my DevOps organization and DevOps project, and here I have categorized, I have created folders in my pipeline so that it's easy for me to see the pipeline history, the executions, and everything. So here you see that I have this Ops-In-DevOps folder, and then there are subfolders out here. So this is my rotate storage account keys. So here what I will do is I'll go inside this, and then I will run the pipeline. Now let me move myself a little bit to this side so that you can see it properly. Now you see that I have to provide the resource group name. Again, if you're not providing it, if you're providing a wrong resource group or a wrong storage account name or a wrong keyword account, again, the validation will fail and the whole pipeline will not get executed. This is the validation is in place. So we have a resource group name as a text box, storage account as a text box, keyword as a text box, because these are user input. And then there is a choice that whether you want to rotate your primary key or a secondary key. Okay. So now what I will do is I have written down things here for the ease so that it's easy for me to copy and paste. So let's do it in this way. So I will provide this one as, because this I know it is there in my environment. Then the storage account, I will put my storage account as this. Yeah, and then I think, I remember the keyword name AMPUCKV. So this is the one. And now what I will do is I will say that, okay, I will rotate the primary storage account key. Before we do, let's check the keyword name if I am right. AMPUCKV. Yes, I'm right. So AMPUCKV is there. I'm selecting, and now I am going to run it. Okay. Now here you see that as a part of the stage, you see that the first is validate stage, where it is validating the storage account, resource group, and keyword. And then there is like, this is for the primary and this is for the secondary. Depending upon what you're selecting, that stage is going to execute, the other one will get skipped. So if the first stage, the validate resource group, storage account, and keyword, this stage gets successful. And now since I have selected primary key to be rotated, so the secondary key stage will automatically get skipped, and we will see it in a moment. Again, move this on this side so that you can view it properly. I'll give it a little bit of time so that once this stage gets completed, when this starts, then I can move it to the pipeline execution screen. Then it would be much easier for everybody to understand. Okay, so it is a little bit taking a time, so let's see where it is. Okay, so it is validating the storage account. Okay, as you can see in the screen, see it is showing that resource group exists. Then it is saying the storage account which I have mentioned exists. Then it's saying that the keyword exists. Okay, so let's see the logs by the time. So here, these are all things the validation is checking. Now this got successful. Now, as I said, if I go back here, you see, I have selected the primary one. So the primary one got started execution. The secondary is getting skipped. Now I look into this one. It will take a little bit of time. Please bear with me because I am running my pipelines over Microsoft hosted agent. So yeah, it will take a little bit of time, but I'm pretty sure that the execution will be completed. Okay. Shouldn't be long, I think. Fantastic. So now it has begun. So then now I'm pretty sure that it will rotate the primary key, and then it will store it in the keyboard. So we'll see it in a couple of seconds, I hope. Perfect. So let's go to the log a little bit and see that, what. So you see here, if I just move myself a little bit up, that the storage account primary and this has been successfully rotated and is stored in key vault aim POCKV. It has also given the key vault name under the resource group, the name which we have provided. Now let's go back. So this is my demo. This is my demo resource group, and I have a key vault, name of the key vault out here. And now if I go out here in secrets, if I go, you see that it took the name of the storage account and it just put -primary because we rotated the primary. And now if I go here, I click on this one, and you see that this is the secret value which has been there. And let's now, what we will do is I will just open another one, and here we will see that whether or not this is actually the value. Let's see that. Okay, so I'll go my resource group, and this is my resource group. This is my storage account, and in the storage account I have the access keys out here. Now I have rotated the first one. You see it starts with CPYJ, and if I go here, it is saying CPYJ. So this means that the automation which I ran, it is actually doing the job for which it has been done. Okay. Now, quickly, I will again browse through the same one, and what I will do this time is I will run a new one. And as soon as I run a new one, I will this time use a secondary. It's the same thing, but I just wanted to show that the secondary also works. So it will take a little bit of time like the previously, but it will show you that it is also getting rotated, the secondary, and it is getting stored in the keyboard. Okay, so now I only have primary. A similar entry with -secondary will also come here, which we will see it in a few minutes. Okay. Okay, so being conscious of the time, what I will do is, since this is running and we have already seen that how it is working in primary, this is nothing different what is going to be done in the secondary. I will now start talking about the next demo. It is running in background. We'll come back. I will start, talking about my next automation demo, which I'll be showing you. So the first one which we saw was the rotate storage account keys using DevOps, which we did it successfully. The secondary one is running at the moment. Now we will go to the SFTP one. So this SFTP feature is relatively new, and here what we are trying to achieve is absolutely the same way, but in a little different way. Now, The screen looks exactly the same, but it will ask you for the SFTP username, because you have to also create a username, and we'll come back to that. Okay. So for this automation, what do we require? We require a resource group. We require a storage account. The storage account which is required, it should have the hierarchical namespace enabled, which means that it should be a data lake store, because otherwise SFTP is not available, because this is the primary requirement. Then of course, it needs a keyword, because after we are not only enabling the SFTP feature in the storage account, but we are also creating a local SFTP username. We are generating the password. There is also a connection string attached to the SFTP username, and finally, it is also getting a home directory, which is nothing but a container in the storage account. Okay, so that is why we are going to see this whole automation, that how the pipeline is validating each and every component, how it is making sure that if this is not available, the pipeline is failing, and it is also ensuring that that once this whole validation process is successful, it is enabling the SFTP, it is creating the local username, it is generating password, it is also creating the container, attaching the local SFTP user to the container as a home directory, and then the connection string, username, and the password are getting stored in keyword. This is what is the automation doing. So before we do that, let's jump back to our previously run secondary thing, and you can see that this is now completed. Let's validate again. So now we go back here and we just refresh it, and you see that the secondary is already here. Okay, it's again, the naming convention is exactly the same. Name of the storage account hyphen secondary. It helps you to identify, because if you are doing the same thing for multiple storage account, then you need to have a proper naming convention. So this is like the secret, like the storage account, and now we see that it is f2-rp and everything. Okay, let's see, and I will first refresh it. Let's see, and then I will go and see this. Okay, I think the refresh didn't work. Okay, I will go to access keys, and I will show that okay, refresh the whole page, and I will click on show. So you see, it is f2-r /rp, and if I go back here, it is also the same. It is just matter of fact that you have to refresh the page sometimes to reflect the value. That's what I did. So yes, so this means that my primary and the secondary account, this is like this is successful, and now we move to the next demo. So for the next demo, I already have a storage account here, a different storage account, where I have this hierarchical namespace already enabled. Okay, and you see that there's a SFTP option out here, and here we have nothing. So SFTP is not enabled, there is no users, and if you see out here in the containers, there is nothing. These are all the de facto and everything, but there's nothing. So now what I will do is I will go back here in the pipelines. I'll click on all. I will go to my Ops-In-DevOps folder, Ops-In-DevOps folder, enable SFTP. Good. And now I will click on this one, and I will run the pipeline. So I will just move my screen a little bit here again. And you see, it's again the same thing. It's nothing different, but we are just going to put all the details out here. So it's demo -blog -rg. The storage account name is something which I have to copy because I don't remember. So this is my DLS storage account. I copy tab, and then okay, I will paste it. Keyword, I know it is AMPOCKV, and SFTP username. Okay, so I have now created one SFTP like this username. Okay, cool. So I will just do this. Maybe not 10, I'll just create. Rather, I'll keep it 10. Okay, good. So I have now created this. So what I will do is now I have all the values. I know that the demo block exists, SFTP this exists, keyword exists. In case if you are just want to ensure that, okay, whether or not that validation is working, feel free to provide any false resource group or any storage account which doesn't exist, or maybe a storage account which exists but the hierarchical namespace is not enabled. uh, Feel free to do the permutation and combination. I'm pretty sure the validation will fail because I have covered all the bases, and I'll come back to the code where I'll show you that how this code is there as well. Okay, so I will now run the automation. So now let the automation run, because again it has two stages. One is validating and then it is enabling the SFTP and doing the rest of the configuration. Now I go back to my code. So while the automation is running, I will just jump back to the code, and here you see that SFTP with DevOps. So if I click on this one, you see that I have the first or the runtime variables, then we have the pipeline variables, and then we have two stages. And here you see that I am validating not only the resource group, but I am also validating storage account, hierarchical space of the storage account, and the keyword. So I have tried to cover all my bases out here so that my automation is doing the right kind of validation. So it will check everything, and I will show you in the pipeline logs as well that it is covering all the possible validation, and then it is enabling it. But do remember that what happens that if the SFTP option in the DLS store, in the data lake store, is already enabled. I have also covered that in my validation. So it is not like every time it will try to enable. So if the SFTP option is already enabled, then it will skip and it will move to the next task. What is the next task? Checking that the provided username exists or not. If it exists, it skips. If it doesn't exist, then it will create the local username, it will generate the password, it will create the container, map the container as a home directory for the local SFTP user, and then it will take all the three values, the username, local username, the generated password, and the connection string, and it will store it in the keyword. So this stage is, though it is called SFTP enable, it doesn't mean that every time it is enabling. There is also a validation in place as well. So it will again check everything, and then after that it will start doing it. And this is what is very important to mention, and the code is right here. Feel free to check it out. So this is the code out here for the SFTP one. Let's see if this is gone. Okay, so now I see that the validation is successful, and now it is enabling the SFTP and storing the credentials. Let's have a look. Perfect. So again, this was done. Now you see that earlier I showed you. I'll come to the pipeline logs, but let's look into from the graphical user interface, because it will be much easier for you to understand. So if I click on SFTP again, you see that it got enabled. Okay. Yes. So yeah, sometimes you have to refresh the page, otherwise the values doesn't get propagated properly, and this is what I have to do all the time, every time, because time is sensitive out here. This is like, you see that the disable SFTP option is now being popped up, which means that you have already enabled SFTP. Now you see that the provided local username which you have provided has been created, the password has been generated, and the name of the local SFTP which we have provided with -dir has been appended, and this is the home directory for the particular local SFTP username. And this whole thing is a connection string, giving you the flexibility that, okay, once this whole thing is configured, how are you going to connect to this SFTP option in the data lakes too? Okay, so this is done. Now if I go to the container part, you see that there has been a container created inside. And finally, if I create on, let's go to the resource group again. Yes. And if I finally go to the key vault, and if I go to the secrets, you see you have this connection string, you have the generated password and the username. So next time any username you provide, it will again create all these three entries, and that is why, I have kept the name of the secret unique based on the name of the local username you are providing as a part of the pipeline runtime variable. Now if I go to the pipeline logs out here, if you go here and if I scroll down a little bit down, then you can properly see out here that everything is like, shown in the log, you can see it, everything. So you see SFTP enabled for storage account this, then it is validating if SFTP local username directory exists, okay, and then it got created. That is why you see the boolean value true, and then it gives me the output which I am generating, so that if anybody who's reading the log, it is user friendly. And then if I'm seeing that if the local user exists, so first it is like the container or the home directory of the SFTP local username exists or not. Now the second is the SFTP local user, if it exists or not. And you see that the resource local user / whatever you have provided the name does not exist, and that is why it gets created. Once it gets created, then we are storing everything in the key vault, which is the last one. So this is how you are doing it. Okay, now I will just quickly, what I will do is I will just run this again, but this time what I will do is I will just put the username as 20, just to prove my point that SFTP is now already enabled. So does it work? My automation which I have built, yes, it does work. It will not enable the SFTP anymore, but it will just create the password, and it will just create the username, container, generate the password, and put all the three values in the key vault. Let's do that. Okay. So while it is running, because now I have explained you everything. So while it is running, I will now move to the next demo, which is, let's see which one we want to do. Let's scroll up a bit, and okay, let's do the create service principal and storing it in the queue. Okay. So this is one of the important tasks, which every now and then we have to do. And I have done this demo for two of the Azure communities. One was Azure Burn User Group Switzerland, and then again Journey to the Cloud 9.0, I think. Yeah, it's 9.0. And I have given a certain use case. I've tried to explain that why I created this automation, because in the real life scenario, you don't have access to the tenant or the directory services. Not everybody has. Only a certain people, a certain section of team has it, because tenant rights are huge, and these tenant right or directory services, these rights are being maintained by privileged identity management, which is PIM. Now, so you need now a service principal. Because why you need a service principal? The basic use case is that, okay, you need to create a service connection, a DevOps service connection. A new project has popped up, and you need to create a new service principal, and for that you need to create a new DevOps project. Once the DevOps project is created, you need a new service connection, okay, and that is why. Now, think from a cloud engineer perspective, he doesn't have right to Azure Active Directory to create a service principal. He also doesn't have right to, he's also not included in the required privilege identity management PIM user groups to elevate his rights to create a service principal. Then how is my day-to-day operation going to work? Because these are bottlenecks. So what you can do is, like, instead of giving individually to a person, you can always provide those rights to a service principal, and you can put it as a pipeline task, and you can run it, and you can create the service principal, and those can be stored in the keyword. That is what we are doing. So instead of giving every cloud engineer the required rights, you are just creating one service principal which has the required rights. For example, it has the service principal. I am providing them the Azure Active Directory rules, like a cloud application administrator, because cloud application administrator has the rights of creating the SPI in your directory services. So, and that SPI, I'm using it to run this particular pipeline, which is helping my cloud engineers to generate rather create a service principal for any of the new projects which we are onboarding, and the password is generated and stored in the keyboard. So this is what I am trying to do. But again, it is not only about just about creating a service principal, generating a password, storing it in the keyword, but again there's validation in place. It will check for service principal whether it exists or not. If it exists, it will fail. Again, resource group and keyword validation is just like the other pipelines. So if everything is successful, then only you create a service principal, you generate a password, store it in the keyword, and that is how it works. Before we run this demo, we would like to see that what happened in our past demo. And you see that last time I said that the hierarchical namespace, the SFTP, everything is already enabled. So this is what we saw. Now, if I go here, let's go to the resource group, and I have this one. And if I go to the SFTP one, so when we executed for the very first time, we were enabling the SFTP. But in the second time, we are not enabling SFTP anymore. So the enabling of the SFTP part got skipped, but the other things got completed. So it created a username, it generated the SSH password, it created the container, associated it as a home directory, sorry. And then now if I go to the keyword and if I refresh it, okay, so refresh always doesn't work. Oh, it works. Okay, cool. So then you see that it has exactly the same kind of pattern. The name of the SFTP local user, hyphen username, hyphen password, hyphen connection string. So this is what I wanted you guys to show. So this completes my second demo, and now we are back to my third demo, which is create service principal and storing it in the keyword. Now again, before I jump into this this demo, again, if you want to see, you have this one, create service principal. Okay, so oh no, sorry, this is not the one, very sorry. So this is create, oh, validate SPI, yeah, validate and create SPI and store it in the secret. So if you want to see the code, so the code is all here, what it is doing, how it is doing. I've tried to put together everything. This is a single stage pipeline, and it is doing all the magic. It has all the validation and everything in place. So without wasting any time, let's jump into the demo. And let's go to my pipeline folder. Okay, I click on all, Ops-In-DevOps, and validate and create SPI. So I will run the pipeline again. You see that it has the same kind of pattern, nothing different. Log hyphen, I always forget the name of the resource group. Demo blog RG. Thinking I was typing something wrong. RG and keyword is AMPCKV. Service principal. Okay, so I have, yes, so I have a service principal. No, I kept it already so that it's not affecting. Okay, good. So now I have this one, okay? Now it will validate everything. You can always try by providing a wrong value or something. As I'm saying you repeatedly, you don't have to believe me, but feel free to do the testing rigorously. And if you find something, please do write me back, or maybe leave me a note or something, so that I can check my code again. Okay, let's run it. And now it is in the queue state. And let's wait for a second so that we can see that the whole thing live in action. Okay, so it is moving a little bit fast. I'm happy. Okay. Perfect. Now you see that we had given the name called this one AM test SPI 1000. So this was my name of the SPI. So if I go here and if I click on Azure Active Directory, and if I go to app registration, you see that I already have this. Oh, okay. Again, refreshing. Okay. Yeah, so now you see that I already have AM test SPI 1000 out here. And if I go to secrets and everything, you see that there's a secret value. But again, where it is, if I go to my keyword and if I refresh it, okay, and you see that the name of the SPI is my secret name, or my keyword secret. If I go out here inside, okay, click on this one, and then you have your password. You see it's L tilde A, and if I, yes, you see L tilde A, so it's all the same. So this is exactly the thing which becomes very, very useful and everything. Now this is another one which I have written in parallel to this one. It was very, very interesting, was resetting the service principal secret and store it in the keyword. Again, being conscious of time, I'm not going to run the same thing, but just want to highlight one thing, that this blog I wrote, like if you already have an existing service principal and somehow you have not recorded a secret, and if you want to do it over Azure DevOps pipeline and everything, it does work, but there's a slight problem with that. So if you run this pipeline, it will reset. It will reset the credential, and uh, it will again store it in the keyword. But there is few things you have to note. First is, when you go here, ideally, if you are resetting something, you should see an entry out here, a second entry. Okay, you will not see that. So this is a limitation. Okay, so you will not see another entry. You will only see the first. You will see exactly the same screen. Okay, which kind of makes you worry that, did my pipeline work? It did work, but it is only not reflected in the portal, and this Microsoft is already aware of. I will show you that as well. But when you are coming here, uh, in this one, when you click on, after resetting, when you click on this one, you will see two different versions. And when you click on each of the individual version, you will have two different values. And that is how you know that, okay, your reset worked. Okay. Now, this was very weird, when I was doing this. And then what I did was I went I went to my, I raised a request with Microsoft. If you scroll down a little bit down, and you see this one. So this was the issue that service principal credential reset does not appear in Azure portal app registration. So when I clicked on, I recorded this and I told them exactly what I'm trying to explain you guys, okay? So I wrote them that, and I also mentioned my blog and everything that, this is the feature. And I just wanted to validate my understanding that maybe that this is how Azure was built, or maybe it's a bug. I didn't know because I couldn't find this in the documentation and everything. So this is what I wrote, and then this was the answer that that Azure portal doesn't behave the same way as AZCLI, and they clearly told me that we don't want to describe the behavior of Azure portal since Azure portal are subject to change, making Azure CLI documents hard to maintain. Once Azure portal changes its behavior, AZ CLI document will be outdated. So this is something like you have to be very very careful that if you want to reset the existing secret of the service principal. So do go through this issue which I have raised with Microsoft. I know it is also there. Everything is there in my GitHub page. Feel free to do it, but I'm not running the pipeline because I know that I have to show one or two more demos to you. So feel free to go through this page and my reset blog. Okay, cool. Now what I will do is I will now go to the other part, which is creating creating Azure Active Directory group using Azure DevOps. It's a very simple thing, of course. It is a very simple thing. It's not a rocket science or something, but again, the use case is very simple. If the cloud engineer doesn't have access to directory services, or if the cloud engineer doesn't have any PIM role assigned where he can elevate himself, for example, like a groups administrator PIM role, and then he is able to create through portal. If he doesn't have those things, how is he going to do it on a day-to-day basis? And this is again the same service principal which is able to create additional service principals in the app registration. I am assigning also a group administrator PIM role to this particular SPI so that when anybody cloud engineer without even having rights to their own identity, they are still able to do the job. And this is what we are going to demonstrate. Okay, so now what I will do is I will go to the pipeline again. I will click on all, and then what I will do is I will click on this one. This is the one. And just conscious of time, what I will do is I will just run new so that I can get the values out here. So you see that I'm just trying to create a thing, but you can always change it. I can just put it Arindam 1000, or rather I will just put AM 1000. Mitra. Let's put it like something like this. A Mitra. Okay. So again, it will do the validation and everything, and then it will just create the AAD group. But there is an interesting feature or interesting finding which I did with the Azure AAD group when I developed this automation. And let it run for the moment. I will just move it to this side. So let it run for a moment, and in between that time, what I will do is I will just go through the code again. Okay, let's go back to my Ops-In-DevOps repository. Okay, it's right on the top. Good. So now you see that we have the Azure Active Directory group. So this is the code. It's a very simple code, nothing fancy. It is just checking if the group exists, and then it will just create the group again with the validation and everything. I always do with the validation because I don't want to again anybody who's using my automation, I don't want them to do the job of, checking beforehand something. You can just be blind and, you just can put any name and just run it. My pipeline will take care of everything. So that is how it is. And the interesting finding, was I actually didn't know, but and then it was surprising to me because I actually raised an issue with Microsoft and it's yet not resolved. And the issue name is multiple AAD group using the same name. So if you open this one, I did a testing, when I was preparing this automation, I did the testing. So what I did was I created a AAD group like this name from the portal. It got created successfully. The second attempt, I tried to create again another AAD group with the same name. It failed. This is an expected behavior. Good. But in the third attempt, what I did is I tried to create a AAD group with the same name, but this time not using portal, but using azcli command. This was the command. And the command executed successfully, which means that I have one AAD group with the same name created from portal. Then I have another AAD group with the same name created from azcli. Of course, I know this principle that, okay, the AD group, though they are having the same name, but the object ID is different. But to me, it's a little bit weird that I mean, like when somebody is looking from the portal, it has the same name, okay? But it gets further interesting. So now what I did is like, when you are using this CLI command, so you have to give a nickname. So I have given the same nickname. Now in my third attempt, what I did is I again tried to create the same, create an AAD group with the same name from the azcli command, but this time what I did is I changed the nickname and I could create another AAD group with the same name. So conclusion, I have now 3 AAD groups with the same name. One using portal, one using azcli, and one using azcli but different nickname. And this is my question, that is it by design that Microsoft has done it, or it's a bug? And I have yet not received any feedback. I'm trying to chase them, but I haven't got any feedback, but I'll keep chasing them if I find a thing, and then I will let you know. So this was an interesting find out about the AAD groups. And you see that now the pipeline got successful, so it validated and everything. How to do this? So, and then it just created it successfully. If I go here and if I go to Azure Active Directory, and if I go to the groups and everything, hopefully it should reflect. This is Arindam Mitra. This is the one which we created. Okay. Okay, so now let's go back to the blog and see that what we have covered. So we covered the create service principle and storing it in the keyword. I explained you the reset principle and what is the bug and everything and where you can find the issue. I showed you the AAD group and also explained you the bug, or I don't know whether it's a bug or not, but for me till now I get an answer. To me it's still a bug. I also explained you that how to rotate the primary and the secondary keyword. I explained you the SFTP, how to enable, how to create a local username, generate password, store everything in the key vault, and attach it to the home directory, which is a container and a storage account and everything. The last part is like creating a service connection using DevOps CLI. So this is not a pipeline, it's a pure azcli and DevOps CLI script. So I will also come back that why I didn't create a pipeline for this. I will come back to this. So this will be my last demo from the whole series. I could manage to show you everything, explain you everything to the best of my knowledge. So let's go through this one. So I will now close this, close the session eyes. We don't need it. Now I will go to the repository, which is Ops-In-DevOps. Okay. And okay, so where is the script? is create service connection. So here you see that you have two different PowerShell script. One script where the personal access token of Azure DevOps is being prompted and we have to give it as a user input. And the second is like you are passing the pad token as one of the variables in the script, and then it is just taking it through the environmental variables, and then it is automatically creating a, a service connection without even prompting it. So what we will do is we will just quickly check one of the script so that you understand what I'm trying to do. So let's have a look into what we are trying to do. Here you see that we have created all those variables. So in your environment, what you have to do is you just have to change these values and you're good to go, because rest everything is by variables, so there is nothing hard coded. So what my core script is doing is very, very simple. It is creating a service principal, SPI, and then it is storing the SPI password in a variable. It is also then querying the newly created SPI ID and storing it in this particular variable. Then it is storing the SPI ID, the application ID, the client ID, and the password in the keyword. Then the newly created SPI, it is assigning it is giving you particular rollback access control in the subscription level scope. So here I have given the RBAC as contributor. Okay. So what this particular line number 28 is doing is very simple, that it is basically assigning contributor RBAC on the subscription level scope to the newly created SPI. And then it is then the Azure, this environmental variable, it is then taking the newly created SPI secret in order to create the service principal, the service connection in DevOps. It is doing the DevOps login. When it is doing the DevOps login, it is this time when it will ask you for the PAT token. So this PAT, personal access token, should have the full access in the DevOps to create the service connection. So once the service connection is created, it is then, it will create the service connection using this pipeline with all the values provided. And finally, what it will do is it will take the ID of the service connection, and then there is a small checkbox which I will show you in the demo that which you have to enable, that this service connection which you are creating in Azure DevOps project, do you want this service connection to be used by all pipelines? So the last command, enable for all, is doing exactly the same. Okay. Now what I have done is I have made a local copy here, and then here you see that if you are so I have now these two scripts in my local scripts directory. And what I will do here is I'm going to run the first one, because the first and the second script is exactly the same. One is prompting for PAT, another is not prompting for PAT. So I have given you the flexibility how you want to use it. Okay. So I'm running the first one, which will prompt me for a PAT token. Okay. Let's do it. You see, it's being prompted the PAT token. Now I will go here and I will simply copy the whole PAT which I have already kept it generated. Okay. Perfect. And then I will just paste it. Perfect. So now this is all done. Let's go back here. Now what I will do is I will again go to Azure Active Directory, and if I go to Active Directory, I go to app registration. Once I go to app registration, now you see that in the all you have this test SPI 500. This is what's mentioned in my variable. I can show you. This I have done. Now I go to the key vault and I see that I refresh it. You see that the 500 ID and password is getting stored here. Okay, this is the second. Now what I will do is I will go to the subscription. Okay, so this is my subscription. I have just one subscription. I will click on this. I go to the IAM part. I go to the role assignment. I will click on this one as this resource. You see that the 500 SPI which I created, it has now a contributor RBAC on the subscription level. Okay. And finally, if I go to my AM Cloud project, because I have mentioned that you have to create service connection for this particular project. If I go to the project settings, service connection, you see that AM test 500 got created. If I edit this one, and if I move myself here, first of all, this was the checkbox which I was trying to explain, that once the service connection has been created, I'm generating the ID of this service connection, and then I'm asking that, okay, enable this particular service connection for all pipelines. So it should grant access permission to all pipelines. So this was the last part of my script which is doing. Okay, so now it has going created. Now, if you see, if I click on verify, see the verification is successful. And this is exactly the thing which I wanted you guys to show. So this concludes my whole Ops and DevOps series. You have all the code out here. This is my repo. Before I wind up, I said that I created a PowerShell script with DevOps CLI, but I never created a pipeline. And let me give you an explanation that why I didn't create this. So if I see here, so DevOps CLI, and then there's another repo called DevOps create service connection. So this is DevOps CLI and this is DevOps. If you click here, then you will see that I have my pipeline and everything, but somehow this pipeline is not working, and this is the error which I'm getting. And I have raised an issue with Microsoft, and I'm working with them over a period. Now it's being like, I raised this on October 5th, and today we are like close to 2 months, one day less. And you see that I have done a lot of troubleshooting. I am keeping on updating them. They are also working on their side, but somehow this is not working. For some reason, it is not working. But as I demonstrated, it is perfectly working. The same script is working with DevOps CLI, but when I'm putting the script into DevOps pipeline, it is somehow not working. So if you see the error, and if you feel that something which you have faced in the past and you can help me out, do let me know. More than happy to incorporate your troubleshooting or your resolution into this one. But this is exactly the thing which I told you. So you can also find it here, and I have already mentioned that this code is work in progress. So you can see that I have this pipeline code where I'm trying to do the things which so somehow it is not working due to permission issue, and even Microsoft has not been able to resolve it. Okay, so this is all I wanted to show, and I hope you like my demo. Again, if you like what I'm doing, please follow me on GitHub, and read my blogs. It's all here. As I said, I have altogether close to 29 blogs. You can, and all in DevOps. I typically write in Azure DevOps, PowerShell, GitHub Actions, Terraform. So I am into that. And if you want to go to my series, these are my series, and this is my Ops and DevOps series. Okay. Saying this again, thank you so much for watching my presentation. And again, big thanks to Gregor and Richard Hooper for allowing me to present my work in the Festive Tech Calendar 2022. See you around. Thank you so much. Bye.